Hi everyone, I'm Jo Fry and this is my channel Jojo Fry Rocks, and you may be wondering why I am dressed in this fabulous Back to the Future jumper with the DeLorean on there. It's actually a Christmas jumper, and I also am lucky enough to have a nice sort of festive style bobble hat. Oh, there we go. That I got many years ago at a Darkness gig that I went to. It was December 2013, I'm gonna say. I was lucky enough to get one of these there. So yes, it's very cold and wintry outside. There's snow on the ground. It was snowing when we woke up this morning. So everything is, as they say, beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people that is a real Christmas Grinch. I don't really like it. I never have particularly, and one of the reasons that makes me a bit grumpy about it all is that it seems to start earlier and earlier every year. And this year the Christmas markets rocked up in my town sort of 15th of November. So you know, it just seems to be kind of creeping earlier and earlier. My neighbours, I noticed the day after Halloween, you know, 1st of November, they'd taken their Halloween stuff down, and I looked in through their window and they had a Christmas tree up. So yeah, it just seems to get earlier and earlier, and I kind of feel quite stressed about that. I, at this point, have not got anything organised, don't know what presents I'm getting for anybody, and yet, you know, children starting to get quite excited already and writing their letters to Santa. And I'm sure that when I was little, kind of back in the 80s, none of this used to start up until at least the 1st of December, when you started opening your advent calendar, right? Anyway, so that's one of the reasons. But also, one of the worst things about it, I think, is that as somebody who loves music, I feel like Christmas songs have been responsible for some of the greatest crimes ever committed against music. So in this video today, I'm going to be talking about and ranking my 10 worst Christmas songs, from 10 to 1, number 1 obviously being the worst. So I know this is, you know, not probably going to be very popular, but it'll be interesting to see if any of you agree with any of my choices, or if you think I'm just being a miserable old Grinch, which I probably am. But to kick off with, I wanted to start by talking about the Christmas song that The Darkness put out. I think it was Christmas 2000, must have been 2004 that it came out. So it was called Christmas Time, Don't Let the Bells End. You know, the thing about Christmas songs in general, right, is that they're novelty songs. Like, I've never liked or been a fan of... I don't even like the word novelty, okay? I don't like novelty items in any way. It's all just tat, isn't it? The word novelty, to me, it just means something that's entirely disposable, that is of no importance whatsoever. It's silly, maybe supposed to be funny, but most of the time, I don't think anything that's classed as a novelty is actually very funny at all, really. So, yeah, novelty songs, Mr. Blobby, Jive Bunny, you know, just some of the some of the worst songs of all time. And to me, more or less, Christmas songs fall into that novelty category. They're songs most of the time that you wouldn't listen to like as a song, even if, say, the lyrics were different. They're just usually pretty terrible, pretty awful musically. And I don't understand, because some of these things have been put out by otherwise brilliant artists and musicians and bands. So it's kind of really baffling to me. I mean, I understand why they do it, why they want to do it, of course, because then, you know, it's guaranteed popularity because it's to do with Christmas and it gets played every Christmas and it's absolutely brilliant for bringing in revenue. And that's another reason why I don't like Christmas, is because it's, you know, it might as well be consumer fest. It's really kind of meaningless. You know, we feel like we have to buy loads of stuff that we don't really want or need, but there's a pressure to give gifts and presents, which means everyone who you give those to is then obliged to give one to you. And I just don't know why we put all this social pressure on each other. But anyway, I'm not going to kind of go into all that, because the focus of this video is about Christmas songs and the worst 10, I think, of all time. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of give a pass, because I am, you know, quite a kind person. I'm gonna give a pass to all the sort of old-timey crooner kind of Christmas songs, your sort of Bing Crosby's White Christmas, and they're actually quite decent songs and not necessarily just novelties. So you could change the lyrics to White Christmas, you know, you could be I'm dreaming of a, you know, anything, and it would actually be quite a nice song and you probably would listen to it at other times. But these novelty Christmas songs, and yes, I am starting off with Christmas time, Don't Let the Bells End. They are, or can be, you know, jokey, or they're supposed to be, and supposed to be a bit of fun. And, you know, I'm not a complete humourless bore, and obviously I'm a massive Darkness fan, so I have a sense of humour, and I do like their kind of jokey, silly, playful humour most of the time. But I have some issues with their Christmas song, being that it's actually kind of quite a rude joke, or they actually kind of have a couple of rude jokes in there. And at one point they've got a whole kind of choir of school children singing Don't Let the Bells End, Just Let Them Ring in Peace. I think that's taking the joke a little bit too far, to be honest. And I know that sort of Justin was very pleased with himself at the time, and I remember him kind of saying that, you know, that was a bit of a win, and getting a song into the charts that's got those kind of rude jokes in it. And it's, I don't know, I just kind of find it a little bit immature. So yeah, I found it, you know, a little bit distasteful, I suppose. Having said that, sort of musically, it's not bad. It's in drop D. That's something. that's at least something. And it does, you know, just have this very kind of nice, kind of swingy rhythm to it. I think it's in 12/8, so it's got that kind of like little bop to it. And I think, you know, he wasn't probably in the greatest place, sort of emotionally and in his relationship and stuff, when he wrote that song. And I think some of the lyrics are actually maybe a bit more personal than, you know, than maybe even kind of intended it to be. I don't know. But yeah, it's something that pertains, I think, to his situation specifically, rather than being kind of a universal song that everyone can relate to. However, there's stuff in there that everyone can relate to, like I've just been talking about, feigning joy and surprise at the gifts we despise over mulled wine with you. Yes, obviously there's an element of that in everybody's Christmas, I think. So those are some of the reasons why, you know, I'm not so keen on it. But on the other hand, it's a great video. You know, he looks absolutely fabulous in the video. It's very funny. It's very jokey. There's some sweet moments in there, and like all Darkness videos, really, particularly the early ones. I think that video is probably up there with I Believe in a Thing Called Love. It's a good one. But that's why, you know, I've got it on the list, because, you know, I'm hopefully anyway trying to be completely fair about this, and so I'm not just kind of picking on bands or artists that I don't like, because I love the Darkness, and yet here they are still on this list, but they are at number 10. So I'm gonna say that's probably my least worst one. And it was kind of upsetting that they didn't even get to number 1. Like, most of these songs got to number 1 at the time, you know, but it was famously kept off of the number 1 spot by the Gary Jules version of Mad World, which, yeah, I like the song, and I think that was a good version, and it's probably a better reflection, certainly, of like my kind of feelings towards Christmas, but it still kept, you know, my favourite band off the number 1 spot. So there we go. That's why the Darkness are on this list at number 10. The next song on my list, the next most annoying Christmas song, I think anyway, is Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Again, it's not that it's particularly a novelty song, just that it's so overplayed. It's so overplayed. And even Mariah Carey herself has kind of gone on social media, you know, over the last couple of weeks, going, not yet, we're not there yet. And yet, you know, supermarkets and places where we all have to go have decided that it is time. And they just, you know, as soon as they think they can get away with it, you know, they start kind of getting all their Christmas stuff out, and then they start pumping out the Christmas music. And to be honest, this is one of the kind of main reasons why I really dislike some of these songs. It's because you're forced to listen to them, and even though it might not be your kind of musical taste, you're just forced to listen to it wherever you go. You go into shops, you go into supermarkets, you know, you go into the town centre, and they're kind of pumping out this music, and inevitably it's gonna be that Mariah Carey song. And I think it can also be a little bit kind of, I know it's supposed to be a nice kind of cheery, sweet song, but I don't know. I kind of think that a lot of people can feel quite alone around Christmas time. It's sort of traditionally supposed to be a time that's about sort of families and everything, but there are lots of people that don't really have anyone. And it's a hard enough time for them as it is, you know. They don't need this. They don't need a kind of Christmas love song. So, you know, that's just some of the reasons why I don't like it. But also it kind of goes really, really screechy towards the end. Obviously she's an amazing singer. It's just not my kind of thing. But when you get towards the end and there are those kind of super high notes, I find that really hard to take just on my ears. So yeah, that's why it's at number 9 on my list. But there are far worse ones to come, just in terms of being an annoying song. And one of those kind of novelty songs is Santa Baby. Everything about it is annoying. So from this sort of underlying materialistic message, which I think really sort of, it really does reflect the worst aspects of Christmas, about kind of wanting these, outward displays of kind of wealth and material possessions. Yeah, I just think that's a terrible, terrible underlying message. But also the kind of weirdly sexual kind of coming on to Santa is I don't know, that whole thing's a little bit like problematic for me. Like, what are we saying there? But you know, that's also maybe a me problem. But it's just how I see it. And there's the fact that it's always sung in a really annoying way. Eartha Kitt did it in her own style, and that was just like her vocal style. It's kind of how she speaks as well. But it's been the way it's been kind of covered, and the way that people have tried to imitate that, you know, Kylie, that is one of the worst versions I think I've ever heard in terms of how irritating it is. Because Kylie can sing, and she doesn't sing like that. And, most of her other songs don't sound like that. So she's done that particularly for that cover version. And I just think it's awful, and it just kind of makes my skin crawl. So that's why Santa Baby, every version of it is on this list. So number 7 on my list is, again, another category, I think, of Christmas song. And these are songs that have been just overused in terms of adverts on television. Because when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and we just had terrestrial television, we had channels that had adverts in between all of the television programmes. So, I feel like I have to explain that for younger people. I know most of you that watch my channel are my age or older, but you never know. So, yeah, growing up, you had to watch the adverts all the time. And as soon as it kind of hit December, you would start getting, these Christmas songs then kind of creeping into the adverts and being used in adverts. And number 7, Driving Home for Christmas, it's not terrible in and of itself, but I feel like it was used in many different kind of adverts and things over the years. And again, it's just one of those that you just get bombarded with, and it's just so overplayed all the time that, you really can't stand it just as soon as you hear it. So yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's by far not the worst sort of musically. It's just a bit bland. It's a little bit boring. But as I say, it's one of those that's been on so many adverts and things that I just cannot bear it. I can't stand it. Number 6. This is one that is a genuine crime against music. It's Cliff Richard, Mistletoe and Wine. I don't think there is a more sort of cringy, just unbearably, embarrassingly awful Christmas song. And I know that, he's singing it really sincerely, and I just think that makes it worse. Because at least with, Christmas time, Don't Let the Bells End, it's jokey, it's silly, and it's kind of sung in a very ironic and knowing kind of way. They know it's a novelty, they know it's a joke, and you do as well. Cliff Richard doesn't appear to know that this is awful. It's terrible. It's a really basic sort of nursery rhymey song with very glib and trite sort of lyrics and rhymes, and rhyming time and rhyme and wine. It's awful. It's just awful. Like, everything about it is awful. And it's not one that you hear a lot necessarily. It was very, very popular at the time. Really popular at the time. You don't hear it so much nowadays, which I'm glad of. But still, if it were consigned to the bin of history, I would be very happy. Number 5 is Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney. Now, this is one of the things that I find sort of genuinely upsetting, right, about Christmas songs, because a lot of them, as I say, they're done by amazing artists, really, really talented people, like incredible songwriters, and you've got Paul McCartney coming out with Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time. Like, so what? Like, that is one of the blandest statements that anyone could ever make, I'm pretty sure. And everything about that song it's just bland. It's totally unremarkable. It doesn't kind of go anywhere, like, in terms of melody. There's nothing interesting about it. It's so not what you would expect or want from someone like Paul McCartney, and I think that just makes it so much worse. You know what he's capable of, you know what he can do and what he can produce. And this, to be absolutely honest, it's one of those things that just looks like a cash grab. And you think, why? Because surely he doesn't need the money. But, he also did that frog song as well. He really does some inexplicably terrible music. And this is just one of them. So yeah, that's why it's number 5 on my list. And another one in a similar vein, I suppose, at number 4, is Step Into Christmas. And this, by Elton John, this kind of crosses over into a couple of the categories. It's, inexplicably terrible from an excellent musician, and it's been used so many, it's been so overused in advertising, in all sorts of ways. It's the music has been kind of ripped off so many times, and you've heard it so much, and it's a real kind of earworm. But it's kind of not enjoyable. Again, it's kind of it's really cheesy. And that riff, it really kind of gets stuck in your brain. And I think that's obviously, that little hook is why it's been so popular, I think, in terms of being used in adverts and things. It's sort of instantly recognisable. His voice is also, instantly recognisable as well. So, and he was very, very popular at the time. But yeah, it's in a couple of those categories where it's kind of not a good song. I don't think it's something that I would listen to. So even if the lyrics were changed, it would still just be incredibly annoying, and something that I would be irritated by when I heard it. And I love Elton John, so I wish he'd not done this. But there we go, he did, and he's on my list. We're now at the top 3 most annoying Christmas songs, I think, of all time. Back to the sort of category of novelty, really. So at number 3, I've got Merry Christmas Everyone by Shakin Stevens. And the whole thing about Shakin Stevens, really, is that he was sort of novelty act. I know people say the same thing about The Darkness. Certainly they did at the time, when they first came out. A lot of people assumed that they were some kind of novelty 70s rock throwback band, and that they wouldn't be around for very long. And, I think Shakin Stevens, obviously with his sort of whole Elvis-esque persona and image and everything, but doing that like in the 80s, it's just, anachronistic and a novelty. So yeah, he had this whole kind of shtick, and so for an act like that to bring out a novelty Christmas song, I guess that is kind of fair enough. But I never liked him or anything that he did, and I was a kid in the 80s, and he'd be on Top of the Pops, now and then, and that was one of the times when I would be kind of like, oh, I'm not interested in this, because obviously I wasn't interested in everything that came on, or every kind of band or act, but he seemed odd to me in particular, because I knew of Elvis. My dad is a massive fan of Elvis, and I just kind of thought, why is there this kind of weird Elvis impersonator type guy trying to do naff versions of things that Elvis did now, in the 1980s, when that was in the 1950s. So I don't know, he was never my thing. I was never into it. So I can understand him bringing out a Christmas song, but it's one of those that gets it gets used a lot in terms of like school performances, school choirs. Whenever they're doing all their Christmas nativities and their Christmas performances and stuff, Merry Christmas Everyone is always one of the ones that they will do. I think obviously because it's quite simple and it's quite easy to learn, but when you've heard sort of really, really lackluster, like unenthusiastic versions done by small children for several years in a row. I mean, that it just gets old so quickly, really. So it was annoying enough to begin with, and then on top of that, you've got to hear it sung by, your children and whatnot. So, yeah, do not enjoy that one at all. At number 2, and this one is really one that that gets to me, is Slade, Merry Christmas, Everybody. Again, just everything about it is annoying. And Slade were a rock band, they were kind of like a glam rock band. And I kind of feel like, not only did it like undermine kind of some of the other stuff that they did, which was pretty good. Like, they were actually quite a good band. But now that's kind of more or less the only thing that people broadly know them for. And I expect Noddy Holder is okay with that. I mean, he must have made so much money out of this song. But I don't know, I feel like if I was in a proper band, in a real band, that song is not what I would want to be associated with forever, for the rest of all time. But, they probably feel differently. It just, I don't know, to me, I just kind of think it's annoying. It's one of the most popular ones, so it's one of the ones that you hear all the time. It sounds like it took them about 10 minutes to write. Honestly, I just don't think it's good on any level. I think it's not one of their best songs at all. They've done way better stuff than that, and I think it's a little bit of a shame. And I think that's the same with my number 1 on this list, which is Roy Wood and Wizard. I wish it could be Christmas every day. I mean, to kick off with, I completely disagree. Like, I totally disagree with the whole point of it. Who would want it to be Christmas every day? I mean, the whole point of Christmas, or, seemingly the point of Christmas, is that it's meant to be a special time. It's meant to be something that you look forward to, and that, it only comes once a year, and it's meant to be, your one opportunity to maybe, spend time with people that you love. It's meant to be the only time that you eat certain meals and certain treats and things, and everyone exchanges presents and stuff. So, if it was Christmas every day, then it would be pointless, wouldn't it? Like, there wouldn't be any reason to have it. It would just be normal instead of a special thing. And I kind of feel like, the over commercialization of it, and the fact that it sort of starts earlier and earlier, gets earlier every year, in a way, it almost does feel like it's Christmas every day. It feels like it comes around so quickly. It feels like it's always kind of there. It's always there in the background as well. You're always thinking about it. You're always kind of thinking, where are we going to go? What are we going to do for Christmas? And, if you want to do anything, you've got to book it for the following year. Because, you try kind of arranging anything for Christmas. Once you get to about March, forget it, So, again, it's kind of like always there in the background, bubbling away. And as soon as it's, you're kind of counting down from sort of Easter to, summer, then it's Halloween, then it's Christmas. So, there you go, Roy Wood. It pretty much is Christmas every day, to be honest, now. So, you know, I hope you're happy that you got your wish. But yeah, again, sort of musically, it's just one of those kind of standard turnarounds, standard kind of chord progressions that actually, you know, Wizard have in several of their other songs, which I kind of don't mind, and I don't mind it in their other songs, but I feel like, again, it's one of those things where they've sort of like, they've just recycled something that they've probably already written, and written some kind of Christmas themed lyrics, which aren't even very good. Like, when the snowman brings the snow, the snowman doesn't bring the snow, okay? You have to have snow to make a snowman. So how can the snowman bring the snow? Like, that just doesn't work, does it? So yeah, there we go. That's the Christmas song that I really dislike the most, and it's one that you hear so much of the time. I don't think it's any good, and I kind of think, you know, I disagree with with what they're wishing for in the first place. Having said all that, I think, of course, there are things that I do enjoy and that I will enjoy about Christmas, particularly as I've got young children, and, you know, it is always lovely to see them happy, because of course it is. And while they're still sort of young, you know, it's nice to enjoy the fact that they still believe in writing letters to Santa, you know, and kind of doing some of the things that you know, you did when you were a child, sort of going out in the snow. It was quite funny this morning. My daughter was quite amazed to see snow falling, and she said, "Oh, it's never snowed here before. We've only lived here for the last 3 years." So she actually did think that it's never snowed, because it hasn't since we moved here. So there are some kind of nice things about the season. And I did go to the Christmas markets. You know, I did get a German bratwurst. I wouldn't be doing that or having that at any other time. So that's something that I do enjoy. You know, I like the food and that kind of aspect of it. And, you know, I do have things that I would only at this particular time of year. I just think I would enjoy it a lot more if it was more about the kind of seasonal changes and aspects of it. If it was kind of more about having those special one-off things that you only have at Christmas time. And I would enjoy it more if they at least would keep Christmas to the month of December. I don't think it's that much to ask, but anyway, there we go. I hope some of you will understand where I'm coming from with some of these things. But yeah, do let me know, how do you feel about Christmas songs? Are there any that are any good, do you think? Or are they all terrible? And which ones are your worst ones? Okay, cheers everyone. Merry Christmas.